Hi, my name is Anton Nguyen. My partners are Luis Quiros and Joseph Tran, and we are the volleyball setting group. The goal of our IAP is to have our participants set to a target with appropriate speed, accuracy, and height off of a toss. To complete the set, the ball needs to land in the target zone with 50 to 80% success, and the set must be executed with at least 4 to 5 critical features to be done correctly. So moving on to our expert video, we are going to see our model here performing a perfect set. Our setter is going to be using all 6 critical features and is going to be broken up into 3 temporal phases: the prep phase, the force production phase, and the follow-through phase. The prep phase is going to be initiated by a ready stance, and hands are going to be low and ready. Specifically, the ready stance is going to have his knees slightly bent, and his hands are going to be at his chest level with elbow flexion of 90 degrees. He's then going to initiate his force production phase by raising his arms and creating a ball pocket with his hands. And from here, contacting the ball is going to initiate the follow-through phase, which is redirection and extension. So he's going to be redirecting the ball forward, and his elbows and wrists are going to be at full extension. So we're going to be focusing on our first participant here. She's going to be standing on the right side of the video, and we're going to see that she has a number of weaknesses. Using the prioritization rationale of balance, we're going to say that she has a weak ready stance. Because we are moving upwards from the base of support, we can see that her knees are not bent and her arms are limp. So the intervention that we're going to use here is body conditioning. We're going to do a series of squats, which is going to help strengthen her glutes and her quads. It's also going to create more mobility in her hips and her knees and her ankles as well. We're also going to use a variation in our second intervention, which is going to be lunges, and for this, it's going to help her strengthen the same muscle groups, but in a more unilateral fashion. To video session 2, we're going to see that our participant has a better ready stance. Her hands are up and ready, so her prep phase is looking good, but her force production phase is not. So we're going to focus on the transition between prep and force production phase, and we can see that her hands are not contacting the ball equally, and her hands are a little wide. So what we're going to do here is focus on the rationale of confidence by task modifying. So we're going to make the task a little easier. The ball is going to be at a much lower velocity so that she is able to set to herself, control the height, and produce more successful reps. So moving on to video session 3, we can see that her ready stance and arms are looking good. Her arms are up during her force production phase, so she's initiating it correctly, but her ball pocket is actually going to be the weak point here. So we can see that her ball pocket is being formed a little too late, and she's contacting the ball with maybe 2 to 3 fingers upon contact. We want to increase that by contacting the ball with at least 4 fingers on each hand, excluding the pinky. So for here, we're going to use the rationale of primary error, because we believe that by fixing this error, it will in turn correct following errors in conjunction as well. We are going to use the intervention of exaggeration. So what we're going to have is have our participant focus on tossing to herself very lightly and raising her arms immediately upon tossing. From here, she's going to create her ball pocket, and this is going to be exaggerated by having the ball land very lightly and having her push the ball right as the ball lands in the pocket. So moving on to video session 4, we can see that her hands are looking good, her ball pocket is looking a lot better, but we actually noticed that when she starts to focus on the ball pocket and the equal hand contact, she's actually losing focus in her ready stance. So we can see here that even though she's having good contact on the ball, for some reason she's still having errors and the ball is not reaching her target. So what we're going to do here is use the rationale of confidence, because by improving the easiest part of the skill it is gonna help her increase confidence by reducing the amount of errors, right? We're gonna see that the ready stance is gonna help her transfer the energy into the ball and push it forward. So what we're gonna do here is use manual guidance. So what we're gonna have is our instructor, Joseph Tran here. He's gonna approach our participant. He's gonna manually guide her arms to be into a nice elbow flexion, create the ball pocket, have her feet slightly staggered and her knees nice and bent. From the ready stance, you're gonna be able to transfer the ball's energy from the ground into the hands and redirect the ball and fully extend. So for video session 5, this is gonna be our final analysis of the participant. We can see that the participant is able to execute all critical features correctly with at least 80% accuracy throughout her reps here. So she's going to do 10 reps. We can see that it reaches the target 8 times. So she's looking good there. The critical features of hands, ball pocket, and ready stance are looking much better as well. So we can say that this participant has improved since video session 1.
So for participant 2, video 1, we noticed that the participant had really good positioning and direction of the ball, but lacked or needed improvement on hip and knee flexion, but also improvement on his elbow flexion when making contact with the ball. So because it was the first session, we decided to demonstrate what is expected, and by doing so we focused on the basic support and we manually guided them during our intervention, and we showed them what proper or 90 degree of elbow flexion was and 22 to 30 degree of hip and knee flexion was when making contact under the ball. For participant 2, video session 2, we noticed that the participant showed really good improvements in his form from the initial intervention strategy used in session 1, but his fingertips were connecting too wide with the ball, so we decided to use an intervention strategy and modify the task and allow the athlete to work on contact with the ball using a wall. For participant 2, video session 3, we noticed the participant still needed help in his prep phase and wasn't demonstrating proper hip flexion and knee flexion from manual guidance that we showed him in intervention 1 in session 3. So we decided to give him an intervention strategy and work on his balance and work on his base support to work up. And doing so, we gave him an intervention strategy of squats to work on the leg muscle to be able to perform a squat and fully understand what proper hip and knee flexion is to get under the ball. For video session 4, for participant 2, we noticed that the participant lacked confidence when making contact with the ball. He had really good form when connecting with the ball and showed proper technique, but didn't really have enough force to get it towards the target. Participant 2, video session 4, we used the intervention strategy of task modification to build confidence in the participant's force phase, the athlete to understand how much force is used to get the ball to the target. For video session 5 for participant 2, the participant showed really good improvement for overall prep, force, and follow-through phase. And in his prep phase, he had a really good ready stance, and his force phase, he had a really good hand pocket, producing the force to get the ball to the target. And he was able to hit the goal of 80% of the balls went to our target. And in doing so, we had to change our intervention strategy because his demonstrated proper hip, elbow, and hand flexion and getting the ball to the target, and our intervention strategy modified the task to make it more challenging and have the participant set off a jump, and in doing so, the participant's form was drastically changed because he was adapting to a new movement that he was not accustomed to.
This is the first video session for participant 3. Here we notice that he has a decent ready stance. However, there are small adjustments that could be made for knee flexion and hip flexion. So based on prioritization rationale, we will be using base support balance in order to increase the strength of his base. We use the intervention of modern guidance. Here I am demonstrating a correct ready stance, which is 90 degrees elbow flexion, shoulder flexion, 20 to 30 degree hip and knee flexion. For video session 2, participant 3 has shown improvement in ready stance. However, we notice weakness in the arms, which is shoulder flexion to 120 degrees. In order to produce the power to set to the target, the arms must be stronger, which we use the rationale correcting in sequence. We are going to be focusing on force. The intervention that we will be using will be task modification, which here we are having him set to the middle or a shorter target in order to have that shoulder flexion and power to set to the target. In video session 3, we notice participant 3 has shown improvement in ready stance and arm position. However, one of his weakness here is the ball pocket, as we notice that the ball was slipping through his hands, which indicates that he does not have the proper ball pocket, which is a triangular position of the hands. So based on the rationale, we will be using relative action to previous. The intervention that we will be using is manual guidance. I am adjusting his hands to the correct position in order to create the ball pocket to produce the right force in order to set to the target. For video session 4, participant 3 has shown much improvement in the critical features we are looking for. He has the ready stance, the arms, the ball pocket. However, we notice that his extension is not exactly what we are looking for. His elbows are not fully extended, as well as his hands. So for the rationale we're using is correcting in sequence. Will be focusing on the force phase, which is extension. Here we are having the participant exaggerate his extension at the elbows and hands in order to fully have the force phase and produce the force to get the ball to the target. Here in video session 5, participant 3 has shown much improvement in the setting. He has tackled all the critical feature we are looking for. He has a ready stance, arms, ball pocket, as well as full extension at the knee, hip, elbows, and hands. He makes about 90% of the 7 ball tossed to him to the target as we are looking for. As an intervention, we use task modification to challenge the participant into a jump set. We wanted to see how much of their improvement from learning from setting, from having a normal standing set to a jump set, to see if they would still hit the critical features of ready stance, arms up, full extension at the arm, and having a ball pocket. As we can see here, he is able to execute a jump set